Thumbs up, thumbs up. Let me see, my clicker's working. Yeah, all right. So you ladies know that I am all about making bold decisions. It is what creates the movement in the field that is going to open up a completely different reality. And tonight here in this space, or for those who are watching the replay, in this training, your life can change. Making the bold decision that you need to make that's going to move your business forward, it's going to move the needle, can happen tonight. And the energy is coming in very strongly through these galactic codes and light activations that have been coming in that are opening up opportunities for those wisdom keepers who have this knowledge. And part of my job, part of my mission is to share my experience, walk beside these light workers, entrepreneurs, and help them to stay on course, because it's so freaking important what's moving and shifting right now. You guys know who I am. Boss shares just a little bit. You know, I'm a mom. I've got 3 kids. They're little bitty here. But I've lived many lifetimes before being a spiritual entrepreneur, including momming it, including being a humanitarian. I spent some time traveling before I really got into the Akashic records, traveling the world and helping. Actually, it's funny. It's like those that we think are less fortunate, right? This picture that you see in the middle is when I went to the Dominican Republic. I spent my 40th birthday in the Dominican Republic building floors for families who didn't have homes. And when I got back, I remember my mother-in-law asked me, didn't you feel bad that you couldn't help everyone? And it was weird because it was the first time I'd asked myself that, and I kind of put myself in check. And I was like, no, I didn't feel bad. Am I a bad humanitarian for not feeling bad? Hang on a second. And I had to double check myself there because I didn't feel bad for them. And what I realized was we have a construct of what it means to be poor. Oh, these poor people. And we shove other people into our story, into our framework. The Dominicans are some of the happiest, freest people that I have ever had the privilege of being with on the planet. And they truly changed me. That was a gift that I had. And it was so helpful for me because there are so many times that we have a story, we have a construct, and we're forcing all of the situations in our life through that story and through that construct, which is why part of the huge activation that you're going to get today is going to come all through the storytelling. I'm going to tell you lots of stories about the things that I've messed up along the way. And stories, your story particularly. I'm going to model a lot of things for you to not do tonight, but also what you can do. Get vulnerable with your story, because the story holds the activation. It's like, think back to ancient times when our knowledge, when experience was passed down through the tribe through story. And really let the story of who you are come alive. All right, so let's dive right in. Here are the 3. These are just the biggest mistakes I made. I'm not going to bullshit you. There have been a lot of mistakes that have been made along the way. But I wanted to, for the sake of this time we have together, really give you a high-level overview of some of the things that cost me the most, not only in time and money, but in my inspiration levels. Because when you expend energy in a place where all of a sudden you see all this drain happening in your business, guess what else gets drained? Your morale. So there's an energy, there's a bigger energy output when we fall into unconscious scarcity programs. Unconscious means we still haven't seen them and cleared them. Okay. And this is why it's so important that we have this time together, because these codes of expansion coming in, they're going to expand everything in your life, including your unseen scarcity programs, if you don't get those under control, which I didn't have all of mine under control when my rapid expansion started. So it showed up for me in a couple places. The 2 that I want to talk to you guys about are, it showed up for me in the enrollment process. And it showed up for me in the scaling process, not valuing my money. Basically, here's what happened. I had gotten bold enough to create a high-end package, a high-end program. And at that point in time, it was a 12K program. It was learn to read the records, plus you get to come to my next event. And I had spoken with a woman who was really excited, scared, but excited to dive in. And she was ready to make the stretch. She wanted to pay in full. Now, she didn't have that much sitting right around at that moment to wire me the money. So she said, I'm going to go to the bank tomorrow. I'm going to take the money out, and then we'll make arrangements tomorrow for it. Me, I'm like, whew, off the hook, process done. She said yes. All right, it's working. What I didn't realize was I had a blind spot. I had a blind spot in really creating a solid enrollment process and understanding the psychology behind it. Because here's what happens. We make a big stretch like a rubber band, and then we contract a bit and we get scared. And I didn't prepare her for what to do when she got scared. I didn't set the right framework. She came back the next day and had this great story about what an asshole I was. And she had uncovered this in meditation now, and this was not the right move for her. She didn't really say what an asshole I was, but she did tell me, I see your sales process, Emily. I'm like, we were on a sales call. I wasn't trying to hide any of it, but she was backpedaling in all of these reasons why she truthfully got scared. Now, here's the correction I could have made. Any amount of an energetic deposit that she could have made right then, about $1,000 would have been appropriate, somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 for that price range, would have changed her mindset and her psychology, and she still would have gotten scared. She would have still had that butt clench moment. But her brain would say, rather than how do I back out of this, how am I going to make this happen? And I didn't know how to hold her in that space of commitment because my scarcity was still coming up. And I was like, all right, I'm off the hook. I'm done. I wasn't done. I didn't bring her into a full space of commitment in that moment. And it was a $12,000 sale. Now, granted, while that $12,000 of income and revenue did not come in through that customer, I can tell you that was a $1 million lesson, because I'm not going to make that mistake again in my business, right? So I had blind spots in figuring out how to hold her in a really bold yes. That process of carving out what our enrollment process looks like, it's tricky and tough. And it's the space where all of everyone's shit's going to come up. I had to do a powerful reframe here. First of all, I had to learn the lesson, let it go, and reframe it into, oh, that was $1 million lesson. I didn't actually lose 12 grand. I actually learned $1 million lesson right there. That reframe was really important. But here's the other reframe that was really important that I learned, is that that's the moment when the coaching starts, is letting her know that this is the moment of decision and we're going to make it right now here together. Having somebody have my back in that process, it was valuable because I did have a coach working with me at that point in time. But my coach didn't necessarily understand my scarcity mindset underneath to tell me to look there to fix that. So we had to walk through that process together of fixing it. Now, the beautiful thing is that the people that I work with is I can pass that on. I talk about the story. There's a transmission that happens with story, but there's also a transmission that happens when you're working in person with somebody who's walked the steps that you want to walk. Okay, so that was my first reframe. The second reframe that I really needed, because I found that this scarcity mindset was causing me to leak in my business, was a schedule adjustment. Because what happened was I had this big increase of clients, yet I wasn't valuing my time over the money that I was making. I was valuing the money over the time. And so I had appointments left, right, center, every day, people messaging me here and there. I didn't realize that I had created a monster here, and I needed to refine that process. Jen, if you missed the first part of this training, which was the 5 steps, 5 upgrades to create your premium programs, I talk about how you can really manage time in that. And I can make sure that you get that replay if you don't have that. But once I saw that, instantly took my phone out, fixed my schedule instantly in that moment. I took a bold action. I didn't have to sit around and think about it. You know why? Because I put myself in a container where my business acumen had risen to meet the same level of my intuitive acumen, like the speed and a confidence at which one gets messages. When you have that in your business, guess what? You don't have to sit around and think about what decisions to make. When clear guidance comes in and you feel that this is what you need to act on, you can save the time of sitting around and hemming and hawing over what decision to make. And it's easy because you're clear. So having that level of clarity and speed at which I can get information and make the decisions and take actionable steps was huge in leaking scarcity. What I realized was the longer I drug decisions out, the more I was actually leaking energy. It was a direct correlation of my energy leak. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs can really miss that one. It's a super easy one to miss. All right, so what I did was reframed my story specifically around that part of the process where it's time to put money down and people's objections and fears and things come up. And I took instant action when I noticed that I had made a misstep. Okay, so I get all of my energy leaks sealed up. And I realize I have another problem. Now, attracting the wrong avatar becomes an issue. Because once you become magnetic and you begin to solve the messaging, you begin to solve the way that you're communicating with your clients, and you get really passionate and excited about these programs, people start showing up. And I realized part of what I was doing was attracting the wrong avatar. Okay, so for me, in my messaging, I was getting the wrong people on my schedule, people who were not what I call sitting on ready. I also didn't really know how to increase the engagement of my messages and the marketing that I was putting out there. I was doing a couple critical things wrong. I'll talk to you more about that. It also showed up for me attracting the wrong avatar in that I lost contracts. I signed high-end clients that were not a right fit for my container. I spent time cultivating, bringing them in when I knew it wasn't a hell yes. And not only did they not end up completing the program, but that time that I spent cultivating them, onboarding them, getting them started in the process could have been spent on somebody that was ready if I was brave enough to say, you know what, you're not right for this. You're not right for this program. You're not ready for this. Okay. So here's what I did. I mastered the psychology behind messaging, and I got clear about who I can serve the best. And I stopped talking to everybody else. Have you ever created a program and put it out there and then crickets? I've done this before, especially in the very beginning. Where I went wrong is I spent the time in my messaging talking about all of the great aspects of my program and what I had built for people. And the truth is, people don't give a fuck. We don't mean to be so self-absorbed and self-engaged, but they don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about this great program that I built. They care about, do I understand them? Do I understand their pain? Can I speak directly to the pain that they're experiencing? And can I paint the picture of what's on the other side in a way that makes them feel like they can have that inspires them? It's about pain and pleasure. It's not about the program. It's not about you. It's the first thing I see when I'm working with spiritual entrepreneurs and they send me their websites and things to look over. And the first thing I see when I go on there is they're a Reiki master this and a light worker this and a tarot this and a People don't care. So understanding the psychology behind messaging turned things around instantaneously because people had been watching for a long time, lots of people. I just hadn't spoken right to the core of who they were because I wasn't talking to them or about them. I was talking about me. Okay. And then I increased the integrity of my culture, of my container. And I said no to people. I got brave enough to say no to people. And this is a twofold one. I needed to continue working on myself and growing my own spiritual and business sense. My own journey needed to keep expanding. Because I realized saying no to people, this is like an up-leveled problem. So once you realize that you have an up-leveled problem, guess what solves that? Up-leveling you, the original avatar. And if you miss that step, you're just going to keep cycling through the same karmic patterns over and over and over again. Oh, because I lost my clicker. All right. Here's my third mistake, irregular self-care. How many of you feel like you have an irregular or incomplete self-care routine? I didn't really understand what all the pieces were that I needed in a self-care routine. And furthermore, the ones that I did know, we can get so lazy where we just don't overlay all of the pieces on top of each other that we need. I said that I would set aside time to get a massage or to take myself on a vacation after I completed an event, but I never did it. And this is a terrible, terrible energy leak. Because you are the root, the essence, the life force of your entire business. Here's how the erratic self-care would show up for me. I would run myself. I would take as many clients as needed to see me. I would bend over backwards to get it all done. I would show up and do a video. I would show up and create an email and answer an email. I did all of these pieces, felt tired, but like, yeah, you did it, Emily. And then I would be an absolute asshole to my family at the end of the day because I had no emotional reserve left. And wealth and success follows how you show up for yourself and in the moments of life that matter, how committed you are to being who you want to be. And I realized that was a huge misalignment. I was exhausting myself, and at the end of the day, couldn't be congruent with who I really wanted to be. And if you can't be congruent, and it doesn't mean that you have to be on point in every moment of your life, but if you have big incongruencies like this, they will leak completely the life force energy out of your business. For me, and for the self-care, it required one of the boldest decisions that I've ever made in my entire life. This was the moment when I knew that I was at a crossroads. Mike and I had separated. He'd lost his job. He had actually gotten robbed, so there was no money left to support us. One of those timeline collapses right there for you. And I knew that Emily can pick up, if fucking Emily can handle anything. I can't. I don't always like to. And honestly, that's another mistake that I made was not letting people help me along the way. This one was huge. Because what happens if you're the person who shows up and cleans up everything all the time? Guess what? People are going to call you and want you to come clean shit up. They're going to want you to do that. They're going to want you to handle it. And I made a bold decision to say, yes, I got this, but I actually can't do this myself, and I don't want to do this myself. And this was when I had $1,000 in my savings account. My Aunt Patty had sent me a check. It was family money. It had come from my Granny Frances, who had just passed away. No money for rent, no money for any groceries, nothing. Applications put in at the local casino as a cocktail waitress, knowing that that was just ridiculous. It would work, but no. And that's when the opportunity for me to dive into the enrollment immersion that I went to in Costa Rica happened. And the reason that this was the biggest decision for self-care that I made was because this took me out of my environment. And we know from Dr. Joe Dispenza that it is almost impossible to create new neural pathways and to ingrain them in the environment that you're in, because the environment that you're in informs all of how and who you are on autopilot. Now, we can get consciousness over that and we can shift and change it. But in order to make new neural pathways, we need new input on who we are. And that means environmentally as well. So for me, I had to get out of the ordinary world. Talk a little hero's journey here with you. I had to take the elixir, the bold decision to take this. I don't know what this is going to do. I'm kind of excited, kind of scared. Oh no. They said it might not work the first time I take it. Oh, just kidding. And then I had to emerge in the new world and figure out who I was in the new world. But getting outside of my environment created this template for me. Inside of this new environment, this new world, I had the support. I had the coaching that I needed. I had the right food that I needed. I had the right abundant environment around me that I needed. I had all of the critical components that I did not have in my regular environment. And during that week in Costa Rica, I did $54,000 in contracts, not the contracts that I lost. And it's 54, including the $12,000 one I told you that the ladies came back and said, no, thanks. This was a life-changing decision for me. And as my tribe has grown and I'm seeing the need of the entrepreneurs who are coming forward, I wanted to create a legacy that gave my tribe that same experience of what it's like to move out of your environment and dive fully into where new things are possible. Okay, can you guys see my screen? I'm gonna run through these real fast. These are all clients that I'm working with right now and results that they've had in the last 30 to 60 days. Okay, we've tripled Todd's revenue from his YouTube channel. Kara's collected 20K in cash in the last 20 days. That's in cash. Now in contracts, she's collected even more, right? I've got Kat doing deep dive programs starting at 5K. When she first came to me doing this work, she hadn't really even created a business. She's a great example of somebody who doesn't say, I'm going to start here and then sneak up. Kat's like, no, I'm going to start where I want to finish. Super bold. Of course, Laura is killing it, right? She's created her own Akashic Records certification course, which she launched at 50K, turned around and had another 40K month in January, all because she's learning to align to her highest timeline within the records and to reverse engineer this. So if scarcity is showing up in your field, it's going to look like this. You're going at it alone. You're doing the one-offs. You're not serving the self, which means your business isn't aligned to continue to grow you and what you're curious about. It's not aligned to be a source of spiritual expansion for you. This is how I shifted that for myself. I created retreats where I could get people out in nature because I love to travel and I have so much explosion of expansion when I'm in that space. Other ways that I began to shift that were like the little nuances of how I take care of my clients. And I like to send them presents and stuff like that. Being able to create something that is just like really specific and alive and cool for me. Not prioritizing the self-care. This is when you're working at a really high level, there are just absolutely no excuses for this anymore. Laura, I point blank asked her the other day, if you had to tell me one thing is responsible for this level of success, what would you say it was? And she said, I schedule myself first. It's that easy. And then not seeking the tools you're missing, knowing that you have gaps, that you have blind spots, and not doing something to fill those blind spots of scarcity. Because as soon as you close that gap and fill those blind spots, the time and money that you're losing by continuing to keep them goes away. The missing tools are easy. Effective messaging. You got to get that messaging down, learn how to tell your story, learn how to extract problems and solutions, where to find premium clients. This can be difficult to do if your messaging is off and if you haven't understood the psychology behind where do people like Laura hang out? What do people like Laura do to feed themselves intellectually? Once you start to figure out those things, you begin to share your message in those places. Missing tools are eliminating blind spots. Missing tools are figuring out how to have a client delivery when you up level that's not going to drain your time. When you figure these things out, it's not so hard. Like literally, this happened to me. I went from $60K to $170,000 a year in a matter of months, which blew my mind. And it's continued to grow since then. So I absolutely know that this works. And I've done it by creating two simple programs, an entry level and then an advanced level. I'm not messing around with this audition. I got distracted by my boob in that picture. I'm like, oh, where'd that boob go? I don't know where that boob is anymore. I don't get distracted by all these different kinds of sessions. Akashic record reading, DNA expansion, light body activation, chakra clearing. I stay in my genius zone. Okay. So what I want to share with you all today is what the trip that I am leaving behind, the legacy that is in the inspiration of what absolutely changed my life, and share with you the opportunity that we're creating here. So I'm going to play this.
Quantum leap in your income by working in the right environment for 1 week, and during that 1 week making perhaps as much as you did all of last year. Would you think that I'm crazy? Taking retreat to ground and center is a practice of ancient mystics and a secret to their power. Even the greatest suffer knowing that there's more, that they've still not yet seen and experienced the full capacity of their genius. 5D leadership takes a very unique container. This is why I created the Akashic Enrollment Immersion, so that mission-based entrepreneurs who are literally here to change the world could be in a container where they can not only access their genius, but embody it. When my clients grasp this, they stand in their full creative power with the universe at their back. I do things like create online programs, launch them, sell them out, bringing in over 50K of revenue in less than 2 weeks. My biggest revelation about creating high-end offers in the area of your genius, there's a foolproof formula that makes it work. One where you get to be you, which is the environment that you need to attract clients that you love working with, who get the best results, who are the most committed to the work, and who you love spending time with. When you know this code and you know how to activate it, you become an unstoppable creative force. Imagine a life where you don't have to chase wealth, it follows you. Imagine being able to have the impact with your clients where you get to celebrate their unbridled success. Come away with me for a reset. Join me March 23rd through 27th in Colorado for the Akashic Enrollment Immersion event. Click below to fill out an application.
I think I got some couple testimonials on here for you guys too.
I decided to go to Shasta, and the whole retreat was amazing. I love Shasta. After that week, I was blown away. I signed up for to work with Emily for a whole year. My business has streamlined in a way that it has just shot, not even forward, everywhere. I've only been working with Emily for 3 months, and I'd say that everything has shifted. So it's been amazing.
This was next level. It was amazing. I feel absolutely different, physically, mentally, and spiritually. I was able to let go of so much limitation and fear and expand on an energetic level. I just feel so open and so aligned. And I've been able to let go and free up so much more potential. And so now that I've cleared that space out, I can tell that I'm going to be able to download, contain, and maintain a much more significant imprint in this world.
I've done this with them quite a bit, and every time it's more valuable than the last time. Shifting literally everything. In my business, there will be a new business program, which is super exciting. I am never the same person when I leave as when I come. And the same is true for this. I feel more magical. I feel more powerful. I feel more complete. I feel more clear. And I love it.
My first experience with the Academy was a one-day workshop. And I made such a profound shift in that one day that I knew I would work with her. Working with Emily this week has been profound and amazing. And the way she presents it, if you listen, you get it.
That's right, Miss Nancy. You do. All right. So the enrollment immersion, it's actually happening March 22nd through the 27th. This is going to be an experience where, like you said, no more. Just like the bold decision to go at it alone, to squander time, to not serve yourself, to not prioritize self-care, to not have the tools, it all goes away at this experience. In the next 90 days, we're going to work some pre-event and then during the event. So pre-event, we work on refining your programs, refining the messaging. I teach you how to close premium contracts. We work on the blind spots. Once we get to Colorado, that will actually be the week where you will have support walking you through the enrollment call process. I know it sounds intimidating. I literally had a coach right over my shoulder, sitting with me, teaching me how to hold this space and hold this kind of a container. Without that, I don't think that I could have done it. With it, it was way easier than I thought. So during that week that we are there together, you will have that level of support and you will have that space to work in to take the calls and to close the contracts. And again, the goal is that you walk away from that week with however much money you made last year. I would love you to make that in 1 week. I can't promise you, I don't know. You got to show up and do the work. I know that when I showed up and did the work, blew my mind. I know the others in my tribe that I have shared this knowledge with, and when they show up and do it and they do the work, they get the results. The $65,000 worth of contracts that I lost were people who didn't show up and didn't lean into the work. And you would think at that price point, people would get their butt in gear. And sometimes they don't. That's why we got to say no to those people who aren't ready to get it into gear. All right, so if you've asked yourself any of these questions, this enrollment immersion is designed to solve exactly all of these questions, these areas where we're not sure. Hitting consistent 10K months. What's so cool about the week in Colorado is when you meet your goal of 50 to 100K in contracts over the course of the year, everything else that you make over the course of the year is on top of that. So I want you to be able to not only do it the week that we're in Colorado, but to keep doing it. I want you to learn to be a standout leader in your niche. So many of us feel like, well, there's this energy healer and this kind, there's so many, there's not so much of this. The world needs this in specificity. Like we need all of the subjects in high school and college, everything. Like think of how many different courses there are, trainings there are, areas of expertise to learn. If you want more time for your family, you want a lifestyle that's a little bougier. I like a bougie lifestyle. I do. I think we all deserve it. There's plenty of abundance here on the planet for us all to experience what that is like. If you've ever noticed that you're scared to make bold choices or that's an edge for you, guess what? Let's get over it. Let's flip that so it feels really exciting because you're going to need to make them. Unlocking your creative genius. You know how good it feels to feel like damn Einstein when you walk into a room and other people to see you as that? To see you in your genius? Nobody's expecting Albert Einstein to walk in and do a Bobby Flay throwdown and be an amazing cook. We only expect him to be amazing at what he does, but we're all like, oh yeah, there's room for everyone to be like that, right? And there are ways that you can learn to be in a constant state of flow where things flow easily. But you have to ingrain the formula of how to take care of yourself to experience that. Okay? This is designed for stepping into superabundance, magnified creativity, effortless receptivity, and flow state. No more bullshit, no more excuses, and a major timeline movement. I'm breaking it down into 3 payments of $2,500 US dollars, or a paid in full, which will save you $500 of $69.99. If you want to talk to me about this, if you feel like this is a hell yes for you, book a call with me and let's talk about it. You might have the money lined up, ready to go. You might have no freaking idea where it's going to come from. But if this is right for you, let me talk with you. Let's find the ways to get creative. Let's invite in the possibility. Because this is a life-changing opportunity that will require a bold yes. Even if you don't feel like the yes is apparent right in front of you. I didn't. When I had $1,000 and I had the choice of doing whatever I would have done with that $1,000, maybe bought a couple weeks worth of groceries, paid half my rent, or invested in myself in something that I knew was going to be the boldest decision that I ever made. And it was a decision that I'm no longer going to participate in my life the way that I was doing it before. And I had to get creative and I had to stay committed to my decision so that the money would show up, but it showed up. And I know that it'll show up for you too if this is something that is right for you.